Hey folks, how are you? It's Kurt with Manana no Mas. I'll turn down the music just a hair for you and bring to you the message that I have for today. Now, those of you that have followed me for any length of time, you know that I have Manana no Mas, but Manana no Mas has a couple of other projects. For instance, I work and onboard customers with Lifter LMS. I work and onboard customers with WP Tonic, which is a managed hosting source in the WordPress space. And, I also do a lot of business consulting and some speaking on leadership. Now, above all that, I also own the Power Sport Academy because I have this crazy addiction to power sports and anything with two wheels. So whether it's a mountain bike, a road bike, a dirt bike, or a, full-blown race bike, I love everything on two wheels. And so I become very, very attached to people that work within the power sports industry. And by extension, that also includes a little bit about marine, a little bit about automotive as well. So the message that I have for you today, and I know that you've heard this before, but I want you to hear it from the consultant's perspective. Know the numbers before you get on the call. So I have folks that reach out to me, whether it's power sports, business, building a website, getting web traffic, digital marketing. I'm just in a space that provides a lot of opportunity to talk to a lot of people in those ways. And so it seems like it doesn't matter whether I'm talking about a website, talking about a motorcycle dealership, or talking about any business. There's a certain amount of frustration that comes through business ownership. We do this to ourselves. This is just like I do it to myself. I do it to myself all the time. I go, man, I wish I had 6 or 7 more clients a month. You know what? If I had 6 or 7 more clients a month, I would probably still say, I wish I had 6 or 7 more clients a month. It's just the way that I'm wired. I know that I'm getting this done, so I could do a little bit more. And if I get that done, I can do a little bit more. So as an entrepreneur, it is normal to be dissatisfied with what you have going on. You always think you can do more. Now, by the same token, and I talked about this a lot during the pandemic, we need to find opportunities within the obstacles, and we need to celebrate our wins a little more often. We need to give ourselves a little bit of grace. But that doesn't mean you can get away with not knowing your numbers. Let me give you some details. Let's say you own a motorcycle dealership and you're frustrated because you feel like you're not making any profit. You'll say things like, oh, I've been losing money through this department for 2 years. And you might say that over and over and over again. But when you go to meet with the consultant and the consultant says things like, well, how many customer pay customers do you guys see every day on average? How many do you see a week? How many warranty hours do you guys flag or book for a month? And for those of you that are like, what's he talking about? That'd be like asking an attorney, well, how many billable hours did you have this month with clients? So you see, you have to know what you have before you can be unhappy with that which you do not have. And so it's super important to know where you are at. A lot of times I'll consult with people, pardon me, I'll consult with people, and I am really, really driven by the idea of leadership and action leadership from the perspective that, John Maxwell famously said that leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And I go, okay, John, that's fine. That's great. I'm with you. Leadership is influence. But where does that influence come from? And to me, that influence comes from the actions, from the activities that we do. Now, I didn't say this at the beginning of the call, but if you are seeing this live, wherever it's being streamed now, feel free to put in a comment. Feel free to tell me who you are, where you're from. It'd be kind of cool to see that pop up so I can interact with you a little bit. But getting back to the subject matter, it is, even if I am focused on communication and leadership and culture, These are all things that are like, people would say, well, those are soft skills, or those are intangibles. You can't measure them. You can measure them, because as communication, leadership, and culture take hold in your business, in your entity, you're able to instill processes. And so when you instill processes, you're able to measure performance based on some type of key performance indicator that you might track. And so if I work with somebody from a relational building standpoint, and I say, okay, what's your business doing now? Where do you want it to go? All of that's relatable to numbers. So what are you generating now? And what do you want to generate in 3 months? What do you want to generate in 6 months? What do you want to generate in a year? And so when you get on a call with a consultant and they say, well, how many widgets did you produce last month? How many widgets did you produce over the last 6 months? And year over year, are we up or down in widget production? You should be able to answer those questions. If you cannot answer those questions, then the consultant is forced into another role where we have to say, okay, you reached out to me because, hey, Mike Miles from California, new listener. Hey, good to see you, man. Good to see you. That's awesome. And you're from LinkedIn. Awesome. I am super active on LinkedIn. If you get a chance, make sure we connect. And so if you don't know the numbers and you go to a consultant and you say, well, I don't know how many widgets I made in the last 6 months, and I don't know if I'm up or down from last year. Well, then we have to go to, well, what's the root cause of your frustration? Because you reached out to the consultant from a position of frustration. You reached out because you weren't satisfied with what your business was developing. So is it a personality thing? Do you not like your managers? Do you not like the people that you've hired? Do you wish that you would have opened a restaurant instead? There are all these questions that kind of like pop up, like I got to find the root cause of things. And at the end of the consult, the consultant is still then forced to assign some kind of tracking, key performance indicator type metric to that conversation. And so when I say know the numbers before you get on the call, that is specifically what I'm talking about. When you meet with a consultant about something, and again, I do this from motorcycle dealerships to car dealerships to different organizations, different networking groups, churches. And then, of course, like I said, I speak on leadership to a certain extent. So I just want to communicate to people that have the time, that are watching this, to go, hey, this is what my business is currently doing. I am producing this much of this much of that. I've got this much turnover with my staff, and I wish that I was producing this much of this much of that, and my staff turnover would reduce to this. See, and then that gives us a numeric value, a key performance indicator to track as a consultant, where we can say, okay, let's work on our communication, leadership, and build culture within your business, build a positive culture. And then let's put some processes in place, processes and procedures. Let's put that in place. And then let's measure over the next 30, 60, and 90 days to see if we are making trends go in the right direction or in the incorrect direction. Sometimes you think you're righting the ship and you're really just damaging things. I'm guilty of this. I've done this in the past. I gave a 2-day seminar when I worked for one of the OEMs. And I really cracked down in one of my sessions about wasting time with technicians in a service environment. And I said, too many technicians waste time. There's too much wasted time between the admin staff and the technicians. There's too much wasted time between technicians on their cell phones. There's too much wasted time between letting customers talk to technicians. And I went through this whole thing. It was a 2-day seminar. And I said, well, this is how you drive efficiency. This is how you drive productivity. This is how you do this. And I had a dealership in that group go back and almost double their revenue through the service department. That's a fantastic win. And you would say that is unbelievable. It was actually a disaster. Because here's what happened. As they employed my processes and procedures to drill on people and increase productivity, production, and hence profit, they also destroyed the positive culture that they had worked to build over years before this consultation class. And this is one of the reasons why the PowerSport Academy is based on an annual subscription now instead of a 2-day workshop. Because if you go to a 2-day workshop as a business owner, you're going to focus on what you focus on in those 2 days. You're not going to come away with a overarching, well-rounded outlook. You're going to focus on what you think are problems. And then you're going to go back to your business and you're going to solve those problems. Okay? Well, when you solve those problems, sometimes you create others. And in this particular instance, this particular business owner went back and said, man, I see all these inefficiencies and all this wasted time. And I met with Kurt for 2 days and I'm going to fix it. And he fixed it. But he also drove out his staff that had historical knowledge of the brand, that, had time in service, that had all that stuff. People just got ticked off over the course of 6 months to a year and kind of abandoned his business. And he was left to try and rebuild that. Folks, I tell you that story not because I'm proud of the advice I gave. The advice itself was great advice. The application and the environment of that advice was the incorrect venue for the incorrect audience. That's why it's so important when you talk to a consultant that you show up and you know your numbers before the consultation, right? If you're unhappy, why are you unhappy? If you don't think they're being productive, what makes you think they're not being unproductive? If you think you could double the output, what makes you believe that that department, division, whatever, has the ability to double the output? And then have that conversation with the consultant from a position of knowledge. Wow, that's a helicopter going over my house. It's like really low, like shaking the house. So have that discussion with the consultant from a position of knowledge and a position of strength, rather than from a position of, I don't even know what I need, I just need something. Because when you meet with a consultant and you come to the table with that mindset, if you're not meeting with the right consultant, they're just gonna, club you like a seal and strip your wallet clean. And when it's all said and done, there might not be a lot to show for it. So you want to know what you're changing, why you're changing it, and what you can do to drive it more in a more pinpointed way. I hope I'm being clear. Folks, this has happened multiple times this week, and that's why I'm doing the live today. I met with a motorcycle dealership that really didn't know their numbers today. I met with a web person today. They want to migrate their website from one host to another host, and they want us to add some more tools to the site after we migrate it. And they want to have an online course. And I said, well, that's great. How many members do you currently have in your website? Well, none. Well, how many do you have in your email list? None. We don't have an email list yet. Okay, so you need a CRM built into your website. Okay, that's cool. And these aren't problems. This is not judgmental. This is just straightforward talk. So please don't think I'm being overly judgmental. So how many users do you have? How many people are on your email list? Okay, you're going to sell this course. How many courses have you sold previously? And the answers were no, I don't know. I don't know. Well, is your course done? Well, I'm figuring out how to write it. Okay, we got a long way to go before we are focused on driving eyes to a website and having funnels that drive customers through a 3-step sales process to close them in an email. So knowing numbers, or knowing your percentage of market share, or knowing the potential of output for your project before you see the consultant is a huge deal. Now, even if your numbers are wrong, I had to bring it up. Even if your numbers are wrong, bring those numbers to the consultant. And if he says, she, if they say, hey, these don't seem right, or there's a lack of alignment here, why is that, or how is that? Try to have an answer, or be open to the consult that helps you drive to what that number is. I've had some dealers in the past tell me that their service departments are not profitable. Okay, but then when you look at their P&L sheets, you'll see that they're attributing a certain amount of the rent to the service department and not to sales, or they're attributing a certain financial load from the parts department to the service department and not to the overall business. Or you'll see that a higher percentage of marketing allotment gets shifted to the service department when marketing is really about the sales department. And so they'll think, well, sales is making all the money and service is losing money. And I've had these conversations with dealer owners before. There are dealers that allow the sales department to sell, freight and setup and all those things through the sales department, but then don't have sales actually pay the service department for those services. So service does the work without collecting any labor, right? And so that free labor gets shifted to sales, which makes it look like sales has these great margins. But in reality, the margin through sales is greatly reduced. And then there's the advent for the service department to actually show profit. I'm not saying that happens all the time. I'm saying I've run into this before, where a business owner will say, I'm tired of running this department that never makes any money. Well, wait a minute. Well, where does all the money come from in your business then? Because you drive a Lamborghini. And they'll say, oh, I make all my money in sales. Okay, well, let's take a look at, your numbers. And then, like I said, if you don't know the numbers before you get on the call, and someone that knows how to read those numbers gets on the call, they're going to look at that and they're going to say, okay, well, I can see why you might think that this department's not making any profit, but let's take a look at, what this department is generating regarding work that other departments are turning profit on, and are we properly assigning the cost of ownership or the cost of business to the right departments, and hence the profit. And it's just an interesting conversation. So I can't stress enough, it came up with a web build, it came up with a motorcycle dealership, it has come up with organizations, and quite honestly, it's come up in church before. I network with people that run churches, and they'll say, oh, well, our giving is down, or this is up, or this is, our overseas charitable donations are, down. Okay, well, let's take a look at that. And what is your plan for bolstering that? And then that's where the conversation can take shape. So I'm glad to see that Mike joined us here on the call. I am thrilled that there's some people clocking in from all over the place. It's really cool. This StreamYard is a cool tool. With StreamYard, right now this is going out to Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So I'm thrilled to see that happen. Now, Powersport Academy is in full swing. We've got the Powersport Roundtable coming up for another round this year. We're still picking the dates and picking speakers for that. If you would like to speak in the Powersport Roundtable, I would love to hear from you. I think it would just be awesome to have more voices in this roundtable and talk about more subjects. Typically, we cover somebody from sales, somebody from parts, somebody from marketing, and somebody from service. But I'm open to almost any conversation that is relatable to the power sports industry for this roundtable discussion. Folks, I love y'all. Have yourself a great day, and I will see you later. Let's go ahead and play this one. Oh, I love it.